continuation from 70 AD. When they fall, they will be granted a little help. But many will join with them in hypocrisy. The little help that they are given will be the ministry of the church. And yet, even though the ministry of the church is, I need to back up a little bit. I wanted to identify those who have insight back in verse 33. Those who have insight, these refer to the believers in Jesus Christ after his arrival. These are the ones giving insight to the many. But even though the church believers, the church saints, give insight to the many, they will still fall in 70 AD. So from here to here, those who have insight are giving who have insight are giving information to the many. And yet they're going to reject it. The Jews reject it, and they are scattered worldwide, captivity. And now that they are in captivity, they're still going to be granted a little help. Well, as we trace history, what kind of help have they been given? They really haven't been given much help. But there is a future event that will give them a lot of help. So I'm going to stop right here, and I'm going to go back to chapter 9. I talked about Daniel's 70th week last night. I want to develop it a little bit, because it is absolutely imperative to understand, at least from an outline or summary perspective. 9:24. And I'm going to try to do this as quickly as possible, because technically one could spend hours on this passage. And as you will know, hours. 70 weeks have been decreed to your people and your holy city to finish the transgression. So this is for the Jews. This is given to the Jews. 9:24. Because God has a plan for the Jewish people. So he's given them 70 weeks. We're going to see that 70 weeks refers to 70 weeks of years. Each week has 7 years in it. Just kind of a way of describing this 490-year period. At the present time, the Jews are in the Babylonian captivity. They have been in it for approximately 70 years. And God said, you're going to be in captivity to Babylon for 70 years. So Daniel's been reading through Jeremiah, and he says, hey, time's up. So he prays, God, I just read, it's time's up. Get us out of here. God sends Gabriel. Gabriel says, got some information for you. God's going to give you 490 more years. Get your act together. Why was the nation of Israel under the Babylonian captivity? Because they've been screwing up their relationship with God for years and years and years and years. God said, I want you to be my representatives. I want you to take the messianic promise to the world. That's your job, Exodus 15. They didn't do it. A little bit. Sometimes they did it. But ultimately they failed. Finally God said, that's it. You know, you're out of here. I'm going to bring Nebuchadnezzar down. He's going to visit you with some heavy-duty trouble. That's the Babylonian captivity. It's over. So now God still has a plan for Israel. So he says to Daniel, I want to give you 490 years. I'm going to give you 490 years. And there's a purpose for these 490 years. One is to finish the transgression, and to make an end of sins, and to make atonement for iniquity. Transgression, sin, and iniquity. Have you ever really thought that there's much of a difference between those three things? Not really. But they must have a difference, right? Here are three things. The transgression. The transgression is a specific transgression. And it's going to complete it. It's going to finish it. It's the sin of the nation. It's the specific sin of the nation of rebellion against God. 490 years. At the end of that 490 years, guess what? Your transgression will be completed. And my plan will now be able to be fully implemented for you. That plan, by the way, involves the 1,000-year kingdom of Messiah. And until that time, Israel is out of fellowship with God. Israel is not in a right relationship with God. From all the way back here, even though God gives them 490 years, out of fellowship with God, out of fellowship with God. Not right with God, all through all of this stuff. And then boom, Paul writes in Romans, all Israel will be saved. What can be better than that? That's it. That's your fulfillment. That's your complete relationship with God. All Israel will be saved. More on that later. So to finish the transgression, to make an end of sins. Sins in the plural. This means to deal with personal sin. So part of the purpose for this 490 years is to deal with personal sin of mankind. One might say, well, for Israel's sin. No. Personal sin, sins in general. Then the third one is to make atonement for iniquity. Well, what can iniquity be if I've already mentioned personal sins? In the Old Testament, the word A-W-O-N, A-W-O-N, pronounced Awon, is consistently used for the rebellious nature of the human being. The sin nature. Iniquity refers to the tendency to sin. Sins refers to the expressions of sin, the acts of sin. Iniquity refers to the nature of sin. And so he's going to make atonement or a covering for the sin nature. He's going to deal with the sin nature. When did he do this? He did it on the cross. He made provision for Israel's national sin being forgiven. It won't be forgiven until the end, but he's made provision for it. He dealt with personal sins, didn't he? He died for the sins of the world. He also died in reference to the sin nature, to deal with it, to judge it. All that happened on the cross. That's one group of things that happened. The second group, another three items, to bring in everlasting righteousness. So you see, all this stuff that has to do with sin, we can identify when he did that on the cross. To bring in everlasting righteousness. Is everlasting righteousness around right now? No, that's something much future. To seal up vision and prophecy. Seal up means to complete, to fulfill. Both of those are going to happen right here. Prophecy is not completed until the Messianic kingdom begins. All the prophecy in the Old Testament and much of the New Testament is pointing to Messiah's kingdom. The third factor. And to anoint the most holy place. Well, if sealing up the vision and prophecy has to do with the ultimate of God's prophetic program, Messiah's kingdom, and bringing in everlasting righteousness refers to Messiah's righteous reign. I didn't mention that earlier, but that's what it refers to, Messiah's righteous reign during the 1,000 years. Then anointing the most holy must also have something to do with the 1,000-year reign of Messiah, which refers to the specific Messianic temple, the millennial temple that will be built at that time. Which Ezekiel 40 to the end deals with extensively. So that's the purpose for the 490 years. It doesn't mean that all of these things are going to be fulfilled within the 490 years, but that's the purpose for the 490 years. So the 490 years, I should continue first. Let's do that. So, verse 25. So, with that background, let me tell you something, Daniel. Know and discern that from the issuing of a decree to restore and rebuild Jerusalem until